Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, we would like to welcome everyone to this webinar today on powder handling solutions. We have with us Tom Lau and William Tan from Gerike, Singapore,
Hello,
who will
everyone.
be presenting
Very good
today.
afternoon.
Yeah. So we'll be covering all topics starting from right from raw material handling till processing. And today's presentees will be mainly Tom and William. Tom, you can start.
I'll quickly go through the introduction of our Garrity Group. Thank you for having us today. And let us start with a short introduction. So, first and foremost, Garrity is actually established in the year of 1894 in Switzerland. And we are actually around for more than 128 years as of today. So we are still a family-owned business. If you have a look, this guy over here, our CEO, he's the fourth generation at the moment managing Garrity. And basically, we are all the while focusing on powder handling and processing. At this stage, we have 350 employees around the globe and is still expanding. Yep, as you can see over here. Yep, the next slide. Yep, you can see over here. We have a lot of branches around the globe. We do have in the US, in Indonesia, and Singapore as well. We are actually covering in the Asia region for us from Singapore and with our partner INOS as well for India. As a whole, if you look at Garrity at a snapshot, we have yep, we have two factories in UK and also one in Switzerland. In UK is where our big bed discharge station, our nibblers, our sifters are manufactured. Whereas for Switzerland, we are manufacturing equipments which are more precise. If you have a look, our continuous mixers, our batch mixers, our feeders, and also our dam phase conveying system are manufactured in Switzerland. And the other factories that we have, also known as Rotaval, this is where our diverter valve and rotary valve were manufactured. All right. So INOS, probably Seema, you take over these slides.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. I would like to introduce myself first. I'm Seema Soni, and I'm heading the customer support team at INOS. We started our journey in 2009 in India and have been a solution provider for pharma, food, logistics, and FMCG customers since then. And we have our sales representatives and support people placed in Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chandigarh, and our head office is in Ahmedabad. So we basically are close to our customers so that whenever there's a urgent breakdown for solutions and also for services, we can be in touch with the customer and make a visit to them immediately. Also, we our technical staff is well equipped and well trained to handle IQ, OQ, DQ, and FAT and SAT services as well. Also, they are well trained for installation, commissioning uh, that can be provided to the customers. So we have been active in the pharma and food and FMCG companies since long now, and we can provide solutions right from R&D equipments till packaging lines. So I think, yeah, Tom, you can continue now.
All right. Next slide. So basically, these are some of our global reference. We actually manages a lot of systems for coca and confectionaries. As you can see, Mondelez is also one of our clients, up to Cargill. And we also involve very much in dairy, where we have installed a lot of mixers and the whole system for Wyeth. Actually, one of the recent project that we have done in Singapore is for Wyeth. And we also covers beverages, which are 3-in-1 coffee. We have done a lot, Milo's, Ovaltine, and for consumer, which is the non-food industries, we have done a lot of soap noodles for Unilever's. And for chemicals, we have coverage for BASF, for Evonik, and also Bayers as well. And these are some of the reference that we have done for chemicals. And for pharma, we have actually done for Roche as well, GSK, and also we have done several factories in Indonesia for Heinz and also DSM. So if there's any inquiries or anything, please feel free to contact us. We do have William and myself over here, and in India we have Davao and also Seema to cover all of our clients over there. All right. And this is basically our presence in Asia. As you can see, we have a huge teams of engineers and also sales members to serve our clients in the Asia regions. And let me quickly share a little bit of history of our Garrity Singapore. So we are actually 28 years as of today in Singapore, and we have subsidiaries in Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia with our Garrity teams. And at the moment, we have 55 staff in our Singapore Garrity office, which we have around 30 plus or 40, around 40 engineers to serve all our clients throughout the Asia regions. And what is interesting here is if you have a look at our buildings over here, the second floor and the third floor is our test facilities. So if our clients or anyone do have special ingredients or anything would like to be tested out, always feel free to contact us and we can do the testing for you. All right, and now I would like to pass to William.
Hi, thank you everyone. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Seema, for the quick introduction. A warm welcome to everyone who joined this seminar today. I will try my very best to provide you with the necessary technical information in regards to powder handling. A quick introduction about myself. I have joined Garrity since 2002. It was my first job. I graduated as a mechanical engineer, and ever since then, I've been focusing on powder handling. I'm quite blessed to go through the project management, the electrical automation, and then the commissioning. And today I'm supporting my customers in terms of sales and solution integration. So without further ado, let me share what will be the topics that we are covering. This seminar is actually designed to cover more than the topics that we'll be covering today. So you can see the total topics that this seminar have is actually on the left. Today we will be covering on how do we handle raw materials, how do we pass bags into ultraviolet machine, how do we have the auto cutters, then how do we convey and store the raw materials. We will talk a bit on powder conveying. We will talk a bit on mixing technology. And then we will have a bit on foreign bodies prevention. And finally, we close the chapter with cleaning. And then at the very end, I added some bonus chapter where I will show interesting solutions that we have provided may of use to you and your factory. Okay. All right. So in a typical plant setup, we normally have raw materials handling where your raw materials can come in 25 kg bags, 50 kg bags, or bulk trucks, and we have to deliver them up or on the same floor to a process level. And then from there, we will have passing through them wash. We will call this ultraviolet if it's needed. If not, you go direct into a tipping station. And then from the tipping station, we will then deliver the powders to the mixing plant, which you see here. And then after mixing, what we will do is we will convey them into your filling machine. So this is just a simple setup of a simple blending plant. Of course, different factories have different unique requirement, and this will differ, and we are ready to customize the solutions to you. Tom, I'm just curious. Sorry, Tom, can I unshare your clip? Are you able to cancel your control already? Yeah, I just.
Yep, done.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, we talk about covering how do we handle raw materials. Today you have you may have already been handling raw materials. They come in 25 kg bags, they come in 50 kg bags. As you progress further, where you have higher capacity, then you may want to request the raw materials to come in bulk tankers. These are always available, at least in Asia. I know they're available for flour, they're available for sugar. And if you have this kind, or you need this kind of technology due to capacity, we're here to help. We can help you to convey the raw materials in a bulk tanker, and we can convey the raw materials into silo. The silo can be indoor, can be outdoor, with the right instruments, explosion protection, and so on, depends on the materials that you're handling. So this is one opportunity to save costs, because as your product is getting consumed much more, then you will need to bring in, instead of 25 kg bag, bulk tanker, and then you save some costs in terms of raw materials handling. 50 kg bags, 25 kg bags, there are many ways to handle. So we start off with the operator safety first. When you have a lot of bags being tipped by the operators, if you don't provide them some sort of lifter machines, they will need to bend their bags, and the operators get injured easily, then you have to pay medical insurance and so on. So nowadays, in more modernized factory, I would say, a lot of factories are improving their safety. So they put this thing, what we call palletizing. Basically is something like a spring elevated or even hydraulic, where you put your pallets of 25 kg bags or 50 kg bags on this machine. Then as the bags is being emptied from the pallet due to the weight, then the spring will lift the pallet up. This way, your operators, the machine is calibrated so that your operators is always maintaining a certain height, and they don't have to bend too low to pick up the bags. Sometimes your raw materials come in the ground floor, and then your tipping station or your process line is on the upper floor. So you can choose to move these bags in terms of using lift or forklift or maybe goods elevator. And sometimes this is not available, there's a technology in the market where we call it vertical conveyor. So basically, just like the belt conveyor they use in the airports that is going horizontally, this goes vertical. So basically, the bags are coming in here, the belt will move the bag and up. And this kind of vertical conveyor, right, can be installed and lift up to 10 meters or sometimes even more if you customize the solution. And then, of course, you can also, if the height is the gap between the entry of the product and the delivery point is not too much, then you can always manage this easily with standard horizontal conveyor and the inclined belt conveyors. Back to the operator safety against, operator lifting 25 kg bag is also sometimes too tough. So we have solutions where we call 25 kg bag lifting. It operates by suction. So this suction unit is placed on the bag itself, and it sucks the bag up, and the operators just have to move with this pivot point to move the bags, the heavy bag, onto the belt conveyor. This way, the operator does not lift need to lift the full load of 25 kg, is actually assisted by the suction and this device here, and it's less than a 5 kg load for each bag. Okay, when you do exports or when you deliver your products to your end user might request a certain safety hygienic level, especially on the exterior of the bags. So there is a solution to this to kill the germs of the exterior of the bags. This is what we call UV tunnel. It's very popular, especially if you want to import your end product to China. For example, China will request that from raw materials, you need to kill the germs of the outer bag before you introduce into your processing system. We do this by using the UV tunnel. The bags will pass through from left to right, of course, in the closed position. This is actually in the open position. So what is inside here are UV lights, and then you have air wash, and this machine will guarantee certain bacterial count after the UV tunnel ionizing. Okay. Okay, back to more basic system. When you have 25 kg tipping, when you have 50 kg tippings, if you don't design them properly, then you will see that your operating area is always very dusty. Basically, what we recommend for a proper 25 or 50 kg bag tipping area is to come with a tipping station, a proper table for operator safety to rest the bags to cut the bag, and then a filter located at the top of the tipping station itself, and a fan to always create negative draft so that your powder does not leak out during the cutting or the dumping process. So this is a standard tipping station that we will recommend for 25 and for 50 kg bags. If you have big bags, then you will need to handle them a bit different. You will definitely have a hoist to hoist it up to the discharge point. At the discharge point, you will either go for a vibrating table or a device called an agitator to agitate the powders to come down into the downstream system. So what you see on the left is a tipping station for 25-50 kg bag, and what you see in the middle is a big bag dumping station. Both will come, let's trim this. Both will come with its own central dust collection system so that you keep the environment dust free. Okay, if you are handling very special powders where it's dangerous to product or to people contacts, then you can also have a solution where you have a big bag discharger and you come with what we call a containment box or a glove box. So this way, the operator doesn't really come in direct with the powders when the powders is being discharged. In the middle here is what we deliver as a standard as a big bag dumping station. It's a clamping device. So this clamping device actually helps in preventing dust during big bag discharge. So today, if you have a big bag discharger and it's dusty, maybe it's worthwhile to look at the technology that you are applying and maybe to upgrade this into a clamping device with an aspiration system, and that will help you to have a better working environments for your operators. Okay, back to 25-50 kg tipping station again. So tipping stations, right, there are also many configuration. What you see on the top left here is a configuration where we have 25-50 kg tipping station and a big bag discharge station. So this kind of solution is also available, which will help you to save your user space. For example, today you have a 25 kg tipping station. At the same time, you want to change your raw materials to big bag, but you do not want to eliminate the use of the 25 kg station and you wanted to use the same space, then this solution will be suitable for your factory. Sometimes you will notice that you have a lot of foreign bodies in your raw materials and you need to shift, but you have no place to put a shifter. So on the same floor, there are solutions where you can combine a tipping station and a shifter at a height comfortable still for the operators to tip. So this is what we call a tipping station direct to a shifter solution. Okay, of course, we will always recommend every tipping station to come with a standard 40 by 40 mm grid. This will prevent your knife, everything, or front bodies, the first basic front bodies into coming to the system. Of course, we can put them also on rollers where you can shift to left to right if you have two destinations for the operators to tip as well. Moving on, just like the big bag, we also have tipping station. We call it glove box. This is used to handle 25 kg bags or smaller bags. And normally, you will need this if you worry about operators breathing in the products that you're handling. For this case, it was designed for probiotics, which is good bacteria, but it's harmful to the operators if they breathe in too much of this kind of powders. Okay. So I will show you how operators typically tip the powders. So normally you have a tipping station coming in, operators cut the bag, and they tip it, and you have a dust extraction system. This way you keep the dust into the tipping station, thus maintaining a dust-free environment. This is a typical tipping station with 25 or 50 kg bag. Today, we have also another interesting solution with this kind of design, right? The cutting is eliminated and is much more faster. Let me show you this video. So as you can see, similar to the earlier on, the operators now does not need to tip or need to cut the powder. I need to cut the bags. So the bags is coming in standby. The operator will press a button. The bag slides down and get cut by itself. And over here, the operators will just need to lift up the empty bag. Okay, this kind of setup compared to the earlier one that I showed you, the efficiency will be 200%. That means what you need to achieve by 2 operators, now you can do it with 1 operator, and you can get easily 6,000 kg per hour of throughput into the system. Okay, raw materials handling, you have powders in 25 kg bags, you have powder in 50 kg bags, you have powders in big bag. Sometimes if you handle certain hygroscopic powders, for example, cocoa or even sugar, when they're in your warehouse for too long and your operators tip it, you will see a lot of lumps. So when you have this kind of lump, right, your operator will have to be manually crush it or separate it or delump it, we call it. And there's a device called delumper, where instead of operators manipulating the powders, you pass them through this nibbler, we call it, or delumpers. Then you have a pedal that gently pushes the powder out of the screen. So this machine is designed to delump, not to mill, but to delump, thus achieving 99% of the original powder's properties. That's the whole idea. So if you have lumpy products, then you will need a nibbler or delumper to help you to achieve the good product before introducing them into the system. Okay, I will show you how does a nibbler works. It comes with a basket to control the screen size. So this you can see now is the very lumpy powders. So by passing through this nibbler, we don't destroy the powders, but we try to delump it. So the word is delump. Yeah? Okay. All right. So before we move on to the next topic, do we have any questions, Seema?
So, William, not yet. We don't have
Okay.
any questions till now, but
All right, good.
we would suggest everyone that whatever questions are there, please feel free to post it on the chat box so that we have a question and answer round at the end of the webinar, and we'll get back to you with the answers then. So, William, you can continue.
All right.
Yeah.
Just continue.
We have one question. So, William,
Okay.
we take it now.
Yeah, sure.
So, Santosh sir is asking, can nibbler be used at sieving?
Nibbler is actually not designed for sieving. Sieving, you will use equipments like vibrating shifters or centrifugal shifters because even though Nibbler, you have screen size of 2 mm, 4 mm, and 6 mm, it does not have a reject point because what we expect to introduce in the Nibbler are good products. You just want to delump it. Sieving, you will need to reject the bigger particle size or reject the foreign bodies that is bigger than the screen size. So I will not use Nibbler for sieving. I will use a shifter for sieving. Then to avoid foreign bodies like bag and plastic pieces, then you will not use a nibbler. You will use a sifting, which is this topic that I will cover on. So let me cover this topic, and then Santosh, we can see whether does that answer your questions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now we touch on foreign bodies prevention. Basically, when you have raw materials, you expect like what our guests mentioned, you expect bag plastic pieces, even lumpy product which you want to reject and you do not want them to go into the system anymore. So this is a chapter on foreign bodies prevention. So what is the typical setup of foreign body prevention? Basically, to properly prevent foreign bodies, you will need a shifter, which I mentioned earlier on. Shifter can be vibrating sieving or centrifugal shifting. In this photo, this is actually a vibrating type of sieving. Then after the sieving, you will need MANEC to extract the ferrous particle size, penknife, iron nails, and so on. So when you put these two together, then you have already the basic foreign bodies prevention. Of course, to organize it in the proper manner, you start first with a 40 by 40 millimeter grid at the tipping station. This one prevent anything that's bigger than that. After that, you pass them through a sifter, and then after that, you pass them through a MANEC. So a simple configuration of these three will give you the most basic foreign bodies prevention. And this is normally applied at the raw materials handling. That means at the very front of the line. Then as you go down through your process, to your branding process, and then when it comes to your filling machines, at the very end, you will have a similar setup, okay? But instead, what you do now is you still have the shifter, okay? But the shifter now will be smaller, 2 millimeters, 1.5 millimeters, depends on your customer's requirement. A typical example for infant formula milk, right, is always 2 millimeters before the filling machines, and then a MANEC, and then a metal detector. And then after the metal detector, the powder will goes into your filling machines, which you will see here. Okay, so at the front, shifter 40 millimeter grid, shifter MANEC. At the back, shifter MANEC metal detector. This will give you a very full turnkey solution for foreign bodies prevention. Really. We talk about shifting. We talk about delumping in the first place. So this is a shifting, basically used to remove foreign bodies prevention. It has a reject outlet to reject whatever particle size is not necessary. This shifter, we call it rotary shifter. The group products come in here. There's a pedal that can see. The pedal will push the powder out of the screen size, the dictated screen size. Anything that is bigger than this screen size will get pushed to the end, and it will be rejected at the reject outlet. So all the strings, all the whatever particle size that's bigger than the screen size will be rejected, and the good powder will pass through the the screen, going through the good point for the downstream process. So this is one method of shifting where we use paddles, rotary paddles. This we call it centrifugal shifting. Another type for the same process is vibrating shifting. It works by passing through the material onto a screen. The screen and the machine will vibrate. Okay, the screen and the machine will vibrate, and the powder will pass through the screen and discharge to the downstream. So why are they centrifugal shifter and why are they vibrating shifter? Today, it depends on the powders. If your powders is really very challenging, sticky, or maybe not very free-flowing, we will recommend centrifugal shifters. Centrifugal shifters have the advantage of pushing not so free-flowing powders through the screen. The same difficult product may not work on the vibrating shifter. However, centrifugal shifter also give you the benefit of very, very small micron size. We can design the basket with nylon, and you can get very big capacity with nylon screen size of, let's say, 200 microns. The same screen size of 200 microns, if we were to put into a vibrating shifters, the powder will not flow through, because vibrating shifter is basically shaking the powders passing through the screen. You don't have much agitation, so it is not so effective. So vibrating shifters today are used for very free flowing powders. We will recommend to use for very free flowing powders, and then 2 mm screen size or 1.5 mm screen size. Vibrating shifter, of course, have its advantage as well. Cleaning wise, vibrating shifters is very easy to clean compared to the centrifugal shifters. Okay. So to add on to the raw materials handling, sometimes you will have process where you need to convey powders using air. So even at that point, you already start with foreign bodies prevention. The air intake, before it comes and contact with your powders, you have to put in a HEPA filter, whether H7, H4, or HEPA filter standard, depends on the requirements. But it is always recommended to put a filter before the air comes into the system and come into contact with your powders. Okay. Foreign bodies prevention, of course, talk about machine that is operating as well. And machine that is operating, right, you have certain machine that have very tight currents. For this case, it's a rotary valve, normally in the powder handling. And rotary valve today will also be a source of foreign bodies. To prevent this, what we have developed is a roto-safe detection system, where if there's a close contact, then we will detect there's a close contact and we will stop the rotary valve. So this is also part of the foreign bodies prevention program, but it's applied to the equipments itself. Okay. Before I move on, I understand there's two questions from the ground. One is, how do we shift bulk powder from 25 kg packs to 4th floor? Approximate height is 30 meters and quantity required is 4 metric tons per hour. I will recommend a tipping station at the ground floor, and then we pneumatically convey them to a receiver that's 30 meters high. Because to shift something from ground floor to 30 meters, right, you have other opportunities. You can, of course, put them on pallet. You can have your forklift going into the lift. You can have operators moving in the lift. You can have a lift lifting up to 30 meters. But you can imagine the logistic point of view and so on. So a lot of factories today, they have tipping station and ground floor, and we just convey pneumatically using air to blow the powders up to 30 meters. We put a receiver here. All the powders will come here, and then this will be introduced to the downstream, which we will cover in this chapter. How do we meter and convey our powders into the receiver? Next question, is shifter ATEX approved? Yes, shifter is ATEX approved. Both the vibrating and the centrifugal shifter, they have ATEX approved. We classified internal zone 20, external zone 22, designed for powder dust ATEX. The machine, of course, are made in Europe. For pneumatic conveying of salt and sugar, do we have auto CIP system? CIP drying. Okay. CIP is always question asked by the customers. We don't recommend CIP. CIP means cleaning with powders, cleaning with liquids. We always recommend segregation of lines, use the air to clean, and then we leave the dust into the system. So if you're conveying salt from point A to point B, after conveying, we just continue to run the blower, use the air to blow clean the system. And what you achieve at the end of the day is just dust layer stays on the pipe, which it doesn't impact your next level of production. Of course, if you are stopping for 1 month or 2 months due to the holidays, then your pipe will have to be removed for cleaning. Why do we recommend that? Because if you introduce water comes in contact with salt, comes in contact with sugar, with milk powder, for example, you create a different kind of issue. If you don't dry them out properly, you create bacteria. And when you have bacteria coming to a system, it's a different set of problems. So the machine, the system that we set up today are designed for easy dry cleaning, which we will have a chapter to cover how do we implement dry cleaning and how do we help the factories to ensure that cleaning is easy. How we ensure micro issue for sugar with air cleaning as it will absorb moisture? Oh, no problem, because your condition in the first place have to be air conditioned dry. Okay, to manage sugar to produce food today, your environment have to be dry air conditioned. So when you are conveying sugar, and because your air is dry, your atmosphere is even dry, you will not have the opportunity for the sugar to absorb the water. However, if you are dealing with existing factory where you don't have the opportunity to have a dry room or too expensive, we will have a special chapter where we convey air using dry air. So there's no chance that the sugar will absorb moisture from the air that's being used to convey. This will be covered at the very last chapter. Okay, I will move on.
Yeah.
So now we will talk about metering, conveying, and storage. Okay, so earlier on we talked about how we handle the raw materials, introducing them to tipping station and so on. So now we try to convey it, especially 30 meters up the building, for example. We will tip the powders, discharge the powders to a shifter, bring them into a conveying line, and then this is the pipeline where we introduce air either by blower. We blow the air from the back side of the powder intake. Then together with the air and the powders, we will bring the materials to whatever destination that we want. Conveying distance by air is not limited. You can go up to 100 meters, 200 meters, even 300 meters. There are many different kind of system that can be used to convey the powders. So we convey them into a silo, and then of course at the silo we have a filter, and this is your downstream up to whatever process that we want to integrate. So this is conveying with air. You can also feed. You can also, if the conveying distance is very short, half a meter, 1 meter, then this can be achieved with a metering device, a screw, a vibrating tray if you do not want to damage the powder, or a simple rotary valve where the conveying distance is just vertical up and down. Okay. The rotary valve, of course, is also used to meter powders into the conveying line. So I will show you now a add-on video how we manage the raw materials at the front, and then later we will have another chapters on details on the pneumatic conveying. How do we convey the powders? Before we answer the next question.
Meanwhile, please post your questions in the chat box and we'll come back to you.
To share again for the videos. So, Seema can see the video, right?
No, William.
Okay.
Yeah, now we can see it. Yeah.
The vertical conveyor you show here is 10 meter high. We deliver the raw materials to 3 different destinations, 2 with manual cutting and then 1 with auto cutting. Okay. I will not answer. One of the questions that comes in is, does system comes with explosion, suppression, static dissipation, and so on? Conveying with air And depend on the products. If you're handling explosive products like maltodextrin, then we will have to design explosion protection system at the receiver or at the point of where we determine the source, that's the ignition source. So yes, it's possible to come with explosion protection system. Of course, you have venting, you have suppression. I actually have a chapter of explosion protection, but we will not cover today. If you're interested, contact SEMA and then we can do a chapter on explosion protection. It covers also static dissipation. But as a standard, all the equipments that we install or that we recommend, you have chance to always needed a grounding cable so that you actually do not have any static electricity built out as you handle powder processing. Especially, we are recommending dry area for handling. This system can, okay, next question is, this system can be used to transfer anhydrous dextro powder. This product, honestly speaking, I have no relevant experience, but dextrose sounds like maltodextrin, sugar-based powders. We convey maltodextrin before, okay? And it's always possible. As long as your powder is dry and free-flowing, it's easy to convey by air. However, if you do not know the powder properties, send us 1 liter of samples. I have a powder rheometer to check how much energy is needed to move the powders, and we can design a proper conveying system to suit that. In short, any powders, granules that is dry and easily to manage is easy to convey, right? We have used pneumatic conveying system, machine getting too much noise after start. I think that one will depends on what are the machine that's noisy. Maybe this one we will take it offhand. SEMA, you can contact and then we can see how we can help. Yeah. Do you have a system which can add 5 or 6 ingredient in paste quantity and then blend it? Yes, we have. But this will involve more discussion. This is actually talking about recipe preparation and then blending. I have a chapter on blending. I don't remember I have a chapter on recipe preparation, but we can discuss this offline as well. This is actually quite customized.
Yeah. So Kuldeep sir, we'll get back to you. We'll get in touch with you and then we can have a separate session with you as well. Yeah.
Okay, now we go into details of powder conveying. Yeah. Okay. So powder conveying, there are 2 technology that is used in terms of powder conveying. One we call lean phase conveying, one we call dense phase. Lean phase means a lot of air, little powder. Dense phase means a lot of powder, little air. Why these 2 technology is necessary? That is what I want to share. So basically, to move powders with air, you have a simple setup. Of course, the first hopper or tank to introduce the powder, a feeding device like a rotary valve to feed the powder into the pipeline, a blower to introduce air into the pipeline and in turns bring the powder into your destination. And then you can see when the air comes in, after mixing with the powders, you have air and powders moving together. The powders reaches the receiver. I will put a filter at the receiver. The air gets filtered out. So this is a typical setup of a pneumatic conveying, whether lean phase or dense phase. You will have the same concept. Okay. But why is there a difference in 2 technology? Lean phase, as I mentioned, in the layman, just remember you have a lot of air, very little powder. So the concentration of product versus kg of air is 5 to 20. Dense phase, you can see, is reverse. Concentration is up to 120 kg of product and 1 kg of air. Why do we need these 2 different technology again? It's because of the air velocity. Air velocity for lean phase 20 to 60 meter per second. Air velocity for dense phase is 2 to 15 meter per second. For dilute phase, we use it because we convey with almost all kind of powders that we do not care whatever is going to happen at the end of the process or at the end of the pneumatic conveying system. So lean phase is normally used in raw materials handling. But after you mix, after you mix the powders together, if you were to use lean phase again, the powders that is mixed will be separated again. So to prevent this, and you still want to pneumatically transport, we will use dense phase transport system. This is where you pack the powders into compact blocks and you move it very slowly. By moving it very slowly, you prevent segregation. In addition, Dense phase also help to eliminate the energy being used on the powders, thus preventing or minimizing the powder breakages, meaning the density will not change much after conveying. For lean phase, because you have no control, you run it very fast, the density will change because the powders get break more and it become finer. Okay, so that's the main purpose why we have lean and why we have dense phase. Okay, just put this on. So I show you how does a lean phase look like, just to let you have an idea. You can see a lot of air, very little powders. In fact, if you have a side glass and you have to slow down, then you can see this kind of pictures in your factory. So this is basically lean phase used at raw materials. If today you have this kind of system used after mixing, then something is wrong. There's a risk of there's a risk of separation, there's a risk of segregation. Okay, how does a dense phase look like? Okay, you can see now with the dense phase, we are moving the product very slowly. Okay, 5 to 8 meters per second. Even with your naked eye, you can see bunches of powders being moved from left to right. This is how we eliminate the product from more breakages, more damages, and also how we keep the product in compact so that it does not get demixed. All right. So this is the basic concept, lean and dense phase, when we use lean and when we use dense. Now we go back to lean phase. Lean phase, as I mentioned, is always used to convey raw materials. You can have multiple source. You can have 3 tipping stations going into one common line, and then you can have one going to one line, and then you can easily deliver them to multiple destinations. Conveying distance, 100 meters, 200 meters is also possible, but of course, the bigger the piping size, then the more energy you need to consume. The bigger the blower, the bigger the kilowatt, and so on. Okay, foreign bodies prevention is also possible along the conveying line, where you can also install a inline shifter. Just now we mentioned that shifter is used in the tipping station, right? Sometimes you have bulk tanker going to the silo. After the silo, you want to do some sieving. You want to add this into existing process. It's also possible. You can actually introduce an inline sieving along the conveying line, where the air and powders convey from the source into the sifter and then going into the day bin. Okay, conveying system does not need to be huge. It can be also as small as what I show here, just like your house vacuum cleaner. If today you have just 5 kg of powders, you want to lift them up to 5 meters high, it's also possible to design a smaller system. So this we call a vacuum conveyor, where you have like a suction probe, like your house vacuum cleaner. You plug the suction probe into whatever containers that you have, and you can suck it in a distance of less than 5 or even 10 meters to your destination. So this is also available. I will show you quickly a video. The receiver is specially designed to create vacuum. So when the vacuum is created, powder gets sucked and it comes to here. This kind of system, right, we recommend them for very short distance, less than 10 meters. Anything that's bigger, and also for short capacity, less than 1000 kg per hour. Anything bigger than 1000 kg per hour, anything bigger than 10 meters, then you should go for standard simple lean phase conveying system setup. Okay, we touch on lean phase quickly, and now we touch on dense phase. Remember, dense phase is used to prevent material separation. So normally they are used after mixing, and they are used to prevent powder breakages. So normally they are used to convey powders that is produced by dryers. So if your factories have dryers where you introduce liquid and you need to control the dry powders being produced by the dryers, and you want to move them over a distance, then you will need a dense phase conveying system. Dense phase conveying system is using compressed air. So in terms of energy consumption and capacity wise, it doesn't differ a lot by the lean phase, but in terms of investment, it's slightly higher because you talk about compressed air, you talk about pressure vessel tank and so on. It's a technology only you use only if you do not want to break the powders, if you do not want to demix the powder. So over here, you see installations where you have the dryer, the fluid bed, the shifter, and this is the double dense phase conveyor. In the middle is the same, the fluid bed, the dryer is at the back, and it's a double dense phase conveyor. You have both the double and the single. Okay, dense phase conveying is also available. Okay, for information, this is positive. You use compressed air to blow. The compressed air will be introduced into the vessel and then you blow it to the destination. Sometimes you may not have compressed air available in your factory, or you do not like the idea of blowing. You want vacuum. Okay. Dense phase is also available in high vacuum, where we use vacuum pump to create the vacuum of negative 800 millibar gauge. And instead of blowing, we suck them out of the silo or out of the tank, and we convey the powder into a receiver. So the vacuum is available as well for dense phase conveying. Now you will ask, dense phase is already complex, again lean phase, why you need positive and negative? I give you an example. If today you have powders already in the big silo, and your silo is as such very near to the floor, there's no way to put a dense phase positive conveying system below. So what we do, we cut holes from the silo, we put piping, and then we suck the powder up. So this is one good usage of high vacuum dense phase. However, high vacuum dense phase has its own limitation because the force is driven by the vacuum pump at a maximum negative 1000 millibar. Not all powders can be conveyed by dense phase high vacuum. Positive dense phase is more robust. You can convey almost all powders. Okay. So as we are touching on conveying, sometimes when you have already conveying system and you notice that at the elbow, you always see easy breakages because your powders is too abrasive. For mostly used in chemical side, if you have cement, then you have always breakages on the elbow. You might need this technology. We call it the Garricke elbow. Let me show you. So using a standard elbow, and if your product is abrasive, you tend to have this kind of problem. We have a technology where we uses the powder to cushion off this kind of issue. And thus giving the elbow a longer lifespan. Okay. All right. Now before we move on to mixing, Seema, should we cover any of the questions?
Yeah, so I think Santosh sir had another question that how to control dusting of low bulk density products as they carry lot of RM and it results into product wastage.
If this is talking about the tipping station, then I will recommend, since your product is very light, right? At the downstream where you are doing conveying, I would recommend a vacuum conveying system. So with a vacuum conveying system, right, on top of the aspiration system, you actually ensure that the powder doesn't go anywhere. So normally for very light density, like silicon dioxide, free flow addition of density 0.1, we will recommend the client to go for negative lean phase conveying. So the vacuum at the bottom of the tipping station actually helps to keep the powders down and not going to the aspiration system. In addition, remember earlier on, I show you a tipping station and our filter is actually integrated into the tipping station. So whenever you have powders being sucked into the filters, our reverse cleaning system actually pushes back the powder into a tipping station. So your wastage is actually minimum. When other factories or other people, they may, in the older factory especially, they have tipping station, but they are connected today by a central dust collector. That central dust collecting system is good in the past for investment and so on, but as we move, as we modernize, we notice that this kind of piping connecting to the central dust collector, right? Nobody cleans, so it's hygiene issue. You have a lot of dust wastage because the designer of the central dust collection will always need to design a very big fan to ensure that your tipping station is dust free. And we did this fan, right? Like you mentioned, the BD is very light. What is it going to do? All the dust will be stuck to the central dust collector, and you don't carry it back because over there is considered not hygiene. So instead of having a central dust collector, bring the filter to the tipping station, integrate it as one unit. You tip, you have the filter sucking, yes, no doubt. But when you close the door and the filter is doing cleaning, the powder goes back. And then at the bottom is a vacuum system. So it even enhance the light density to go into the system as well. So this is what we will recommend for tipping and conveying of a low BD powders. Okay.
And in continuation to that, I think Santosh sir has posted that can lamina flow from top of tipping station instead of aspiration? And also that the filter that you're talking about, is it hygienic and food grade?
Okay, the laminar flow I can't answer because I need to understand a bit more before I can answer.
Okay.
The filter that we are using today are food grade, FDA approved, certified. They have been used by factories like Nestle, Reckitt Bessinger, Matt Johnson, and so on in the infant formula powder. So no problem on that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question, sir. There's another question from Naresh, sir, that how you can handle lumpy powder product in pneumatic conveying system.
Okay. If the product is lumpy, right, it's challenging already. Once product lumpy, you can't put it into the system. You have to delump it before introducing them into the system. Where earlier on I introduced this nibbler. You have to delump the process, pre-treat the powders, and you introduce. But if your product is of big particle size, consistent big particle size like 20 mm, 50 mm, you can still convey as long as you design the pipe size big enough. But if it's a condition where it's not normal, where you get lumps, you have to delump it before you introduce it into the conveying system. We don't convey lumpy powders.
Okay. There's another question from Sanjeev sir that they have a requirement for handling approximately 60 metric ton per day milk powder, which is very hygroscopic in nature, and including tipping station and conveying.
Now, this
and
one you have to contact. You have to contact him separately.
Yeah.
This is the
We'll,
customer.
we'll get back to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you,
Okay.
Sanjeev.
So now we move on to mixing technology. We talk about raw materials. We talk about conveying into the receivers. Then you will want to mix all these materials together. So now I try to introduce a bit on technical on mixing. Mixing, of course, there are two set of technology. Again, you can have more commonly used in the food industry is the batch mixing, where you prepare the recipe before the mixer and then you introduce the powders into the mixer, you mix it, you discharge, and then you do another recipe preparation, you introduce into the mixer, you mix it, and then you discharge. So it's called batch because each process have to be done separately. You have also continuous mixing, normally used nowadays is by the pharma industry or by the chocolate producing industry. Continuous is continuous introduction of ingredients A, B, C into the mixer. The mixer will be mixing as well, and in and out. Now, no stop. So basically, continuous introducing of powders to the mixer. The mixer is continuous mixing and then discharging into a downstream process. Normally, you use it if your process is continuous and you cannot stop, then you use a continuous mixer. For example, putting this mixer after the dryer where you want to add in flavor or colors. Of course, continuous mixing technology is more expensive because you're using a lot of high accuracy feeding. So batch mixing is one that we are focused on today. So what is mixing? Mixing basically is introducing different kind of ingredients, and you have different kind of properties, and you want to mix the ingredients together. And at the end of the day, when you take a sample, it's a good mixture of A, B, C. Okay. And And to define, and this is done, of course, using a mixer. So batch mixing itself, you have many mixers in the market, which I will share with you now. So how do we define the type of mixer first? You just have to remember this number called Fruity number. By short is FR. Fruity number, the formula given is the rotational speed versus the radius of the mixer divided by the gravitational pull. So this formula tells you is the bigger the number means your mixer is either very huge mixer or mixing very fast against the gravity. And the smaller the number means your mixer is mixing very slowly against the gravity. So why Fruity number? So Fruity number that's less than 1, gravity forces are higher, and these type of mixers, right, are normally referring to tumblers and ribbon blenders. So these are very slow, gentle, very gentle because you don't introduce as much energy. They are very slow as well because you're mixing it in a very slow RPM. You will expect this type of mixer to be 20 to 30 minutes mixing time. That means 1 hour, about 2 batch. It's good because this type of mixer is the first basic investment, is very relatively cheap, but you can't mix ingredients, or you can't mix a proper recipe if the minor ingredients is getting less than 5%. You will not get a good mix. Fruity number 1, close to 1. These are used with double shaft mixer. It's also as gentle as the ribbon blenders, but the mixing time is surprisingly fast. Milk powders is done in 180 seconds. Cream powders, cheese powders is done in 3 to 5 minutes. So typically, this type of mixers can give you up to 6 to 8 batch an hour, and much smaller for the same capacity. Fruity number 6 to 7, these are very high speed mixer. We call it shear mixer. It's used when you are producing seasoning where you add oil and liquid, and you have chances of getting the powders into lumps because of the oil addition. This is where you want to use a mixer that has a Fruity number 6 or 7, and we call these shear mixers. So Fruity number less than 1. If you have this mixer, most probably you have this mixer in your factory. These are called ribbon blender. Typically 20 to 40 RPM, very slow. Its job is to slowly mix so that I don't introduce any breakages to the powders. But of course, because of that, it's cheap, of course, to invest. Then to match your production capacity, you need to have a very huge mixer, 2 ton or 3 ton, because it can only do 1 to 2 batch per hour. On the right is another type of Fruity number less than 1 mixer, 70 to 80 RPM, sharp 1 RPM. This type is normally used in the paint industry. We call this the Nauta mixer. Of course, both mixer you can see you have one problem. I mentioned earlier on that we recommend dry clean. It's very difficult to clean. So you are being forced to use water spray, water clean. You have to dry it up, make sure no bacteria. Drying can be 1 day after cleaning and so on. A lot of problems. So your factory cannot operate 24 hours easily. You have another type. This is normally used for mixing of micro ingredients. We call it tumbler mixer. You put everything in the tumbler and then you rotate, and then that's it. So this is tumbler mixer. So the mixer that I shown, ribbon, tumbler, they are all good for simple flour mix, simpler sugar mix where you have 95% sugar, 5% flavor. You can use this. If your recipe get complex, more ingredients, very minute micro addition, then you will need, and you need fast and you need gentle, then you will need the double shaft mixer. You have the vertical technology and you have the horizontal technology. We are producing the horizontal because we are highly recommending our customers to do dry cleaning. You can see the horizontal mixer. You can extract the mixer to the back and then you can open up the front just for cleaning. This type of mixer is also operating between 40 to 70 RPM, vertical 50 to 100. Mixing time can be 0.5 to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is actually talking about mixing of infant milk, 0.5% of vitamins, 0.1% of probiotics and flavor. This is the typical mixing time for infant formula milk. Okay, I show you what do I mean by gentle mixing. This is mixing of nuts and raisin. So we start at 0, and you can see in less than a fraction of a minute, you get mixed. We run further just to check that it's gentle enough not to destroy the raisin. Raisin are very soft black currant treats that you may have eaten before. So this, if you use your finger to press, right, it actually gets broken. So this mixer is running it just to show you how gentle it is. Okay, these are the strength of a double shaft gentle mixer. Normally today they are used in Nestle for infant milk, for infant cereal, because you need gentle mixing, you want to break the cereal. Of course, we also apply it to Nestea, 3-in-1 coffee, and Milo. Okay, now, when you start to add oil, you produce seasoning, you add oil, you add butter. This is where the fruity number more than 1 mixer come in, shear mixer, where you need to break the powders back. So these are typically running to 60 to 100 RPM or 70 to 80 RPM. And our mixing time is 1 to 5 minutes as well, because they're moving very fast. They have a very short mixing time as well. But at the same time, they break the powders also. So we use this when you have to add liquid or oil. And today they are being used mostly in the seasoning production. Salt and magic sugar, you know, where you cook your soup and you add this kind of seasoning. We also use it sometimes with drinks, 95% and 5%, because they want to break the final product more. So we also use them on drinks as well. Okay, so what determines the mixing time? First of all, the mixing volume. The bigger the mixer is, you will need some mixing time, longer mixing time. Then the mixing speed. The higher the mixing speed, the shorter the mixing time. And of course, the fruity number. The higher the fruity number, the shorter the mixing time. But take note, it also means it destroys the powder more. So selection of the mixer is important. If you ask me today, you want to mix ingredient A and B, 50%, and you have a lot of time to mix, then okay, go for the fruity number less than 1. It's one of the most cost-effective investment. But if you have a tight space, you need to produce a lot, and you need to do 6 to 8 batches per hour, then you have to go for the double shaft mixing. If you want to add oil, and there's a risk of after adding there's a risk of lumping, then you will go for the high-speed mixer, shear mixer. That means the plowshare, the high-speed vertical mixer, and so on. Okay, we have, of course, the container mixing, which we did not cover, but we have container mixing that we can produce 250 kg all the way to 2008. Today we deliver them to one of the biggest pharma company, right, Seema, in India.
Yeah, it's Cipla.
Yeah, we deliver them to Cipla for pharma industry for container mixing production. So these are typical container mixer. So the mixer that we produce to cover all the 3 range, we have the double shaft, fruity number close to 1. We have the fruity number more than 1. What we don't have is the fruity number less than 1, but we do have partners who can deliver the solutions to you as well. Okay, we talk about mixing. Then I need to also elaborate a bit more on demixing, because if you invest something on mixing, you do not want to demix it after mixing. So understand a bit on what is demixing. Demixing happens when you move the particle size. If you have too much vibration, you get demixing. We call this floating. Okay, when you have vibration instead of floating, it can also be percolation, where the smaller particles actually seeps past the big particles. When you convey them in using the wrong technology, where you have too much air, then the bigger particle size will fall further. I mean, shorter than the smaller particle size, the heavier particle size. The lighter particle size will move forward first, then the heavier particle size. That's where you call separation as well. So taking note that after mixing, you have to also make sure that, unless of course you go direct to the filling machine, then you have no problem. If not, in between the process between the mixing and the filling machine, you have more processes. You have to select the right materials or right equipment to ensure that demixing doesn't happen. Okay. Okay, I show you some example of demixing. Sorry. Not this one, right? This one. So after mix, right? Normally after mixing, you will put them on IBC bin sometimes or big bag storage. Please make sure that during that kind of process or handling process, right, you have no much vibration introduced, because if you have vibration, then this kind of thing will happen. Then on the other hand, after mixing, if you drop them at a very high height, you can also see separation. Normally you see this in an example of a landfill. You can see the bigger particle size actually comes from outside, and then the final particle size go inside. And then mixer is also important. The mixing time is also critical, especially that happens in your tumbler mixer. If you mix too long, it can also cause separation. So once you commission the system to mix at 3 minutes, it doesn't mean 2 times the mixing time will give you a better mixing. If the mixing time is too long, the materials actually get separated itself because of the forces that is combining them together. So you can see now is good, but we extend the mixing time, and you can see clearly that the powders de-separated again. So mixing time, once defined, do not change, do not extend, do not lessen. All this will impact your final product. Okay, these are example of our installation in the infant milk. Let's quickly go through. This one I will touch on. Okay, so we cover mixing, and then I think now is a good time to answer some of the questions, Seema.
So I don't think so there are any questions related to mixing. Just a second. Sanjeev sir is asking, application of high shear mixers in mixing milk fat in water or skim milk without risking immediate separation. How can we do that?
If you want to milk fat in water, mixing of fat in water, oh, we don't do fat and water mixing. But if it's powder and powder mixing, right, and you have high fat milk, I would recommend gentle mixing, double shaft, not the high speed mixer, because the high speed mixer will break the properties of the milk powders and you have fat segregation coming out. Milk powder mixing, I always recommend either single shaft paddles or double shaft gentle padding.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we can continue.
Yeah, okay. I mentioned earlier on, we talked about cleaning. Now you have already finished the mixing process, you deliver to the filling machine. It's time to clean your machine. Garricky always recommend dry cleaning. That's the best way to prevent any bacteria that's happening. Of course, to do that, then you will need machines that is easy clean. How do we facilitate that? Mixers, the most first equipment that you will invest, of course, have to be designed with dry cleaning capability. We have mixers that is cantilevered, that you can extract, leaving only the housing to be accessed for dry cleaning. Okay, I show you this video. This mixer, by the way, is a mixer designed for 1000 kg of powder. Okay. Now, feeding, of course, you have feeding, you can have vibrating tube conveyors, you can also have screw feeders. Vibrating tube conveyor is basically a tube that's always accessed at the front and the back for easy cleaning. Feeders, our feeder design come with easy access front opening where you can open, remove the screw, you clean, and then you put it back. Rotary valve, because rotary valve is compact with tight currents and heavy, there are ways to clean the rotary valve easier, and we do this with rails. Similar concept as the mixer. So you can see it's easy to remove and insert the rotor. You will not need much special tool except for one spanner to remove the nut at the end cover. The rotary valve are made by our company Rotavalve, which also belongs to Garrity. Okay. So of course, I mentioned earlier on that we can divert the conveying to multiple receivers. We have also diverter valve that helps to divert to different receivers, and they are also available for easy clean. So we're removing one nut, you can remove this, and then this is where you stop, you clean. Of course, if you want more detailed cleaning, you can also access to individual points for cleaning of the gaskets and so on. Okay. Moving on, we mentioned about foreign bodies prevention, which is important. So you have the shifters, then you will have the vibrating shifters that is easy clean. These are coming from unit from Russell. We are partnering with them to deliver a full turnkey solution because Russell only sell components. So when they come to system solution, they will introduce us and then we will come to you. Okay. That's Russell shifter. Then we have Manex, also available in extractable version where you can easily remove and clean the Manex. Then finally, if it's necessary, you have also the hoppers that come in extractable cone version, where you can access and push in for cleaning as well. Okay, this is also available. So you can see what we try to do is we try to implement or recommend dry cleaning, and thus we have designed equipments to facilitate that as well. Any questions before we move on to the last chapter, which is the interesting solutions?
No, I don't think so, William. So
Good.
everything is clear regarding mixing and segregation and sifting as well.
Good. So now we touch on some interesting solutions that we have delivered. Micro dispensers, you may have micro dispensing room and you need a central dust collector. We do that as well. This is where you have a bucket, your operator tips, and then you have the hood, and we suck the air of the dust into the central dust collector. So this is normally we recommend it in the micro dispensing room, not in the raw materials handling. Yeah. Then if you need to sample powders from your product pipeline, this is also available. You install a sampling onto the pipe and you can sample powders when the powders is dropping into a downstream. You can activate this and this come out to collect the samples. Okay, I will not show. We have a question earlier on how do we handle hygroscopic powders. Hygroscopic powders means they absorb water easily or they absorb the moisture of the air easily. So what we do over here is we implement a dehumidifier. The dehumidifier will be the intake point of the blower, and then we convey now, instead of normal air, we convey dry air from the dehumidifier into the system. This is how we do it. Of course, we will have to design dehumidifier dryness and so on. It depends on the product that you want, the capacity of the flow that you want, and then we integrate the whole solutions together. But this is typically how we convey hygroscopic powders. Okay. To add on, sometimes if you don't have the benefit of dry room, but your powders are very hygroscopic, you can also install the dehumidifier, and we can blow the dry air into the receivers that we install. So the receivers can have dry air coming in to give them a dry condition in the receiver itself. Only useful if you don't have a very good dry condition operating area. Okay, so you can see this is the receiver. Okay, you can see this is the piping for the powders to come in, and at the back over here, this is the piping where we introduce dry air. Of course, there are detailed systems to make sure that the powders doesn't go back to the dehumidifier or the dehumidifier does not contaminate your powders. Okay, these are dehumidifier installation. So this is a typical where you have dehumidifiers connected and then to your blowing line, and then we use it to convey. And now we talk a bit on cocoa handling. Cocoa handling is of course involving cocoa press machine, new cake, existing cake. It's a very big plant. So what we do on the cocoa handling is it's not an easy powder. You need to handle them with dry air again, like what I mentioned earlier on, and we can convey them over silos, over to filling machine process as well. So how do we convey cocoa powders? Okay, these are the type of cocoa powders that we are doing. Recent project, they come from BT Cocoa. They actually belong to Olam. Okay, Olam is a Indian original company. Today they are listed in Singapore. So we have the dehumidifier delivering the dry air to the conveying line. Okay, these are the dehumidifiers. These are the blowers. So we actually duct the dehumidifier into the individual blower, thus giving a dry air condition. And this is how we blow the cocoa into the rest of the area. Another interesting solution that we have implemented is for Kraft Heinz. They are producing ketchups, they are producing soya sauce. So in the past, they have liquid mixing tank where they have soya sauce, powder, sugar, and so on dumped directly into the liquid tanks. But these liquid tanks are very huge, about 2 meters or 2.5 or 3 meters in height. So what's going to happen is they have operators climbing up the stairs, okay, climbing up the stairs and tipping the powder one by one. Very hectic. So safety is an issue, operating efficiency is an issue. We come in, we design for them an auto preparation system, okay, where we have raw materials coming from the big bags. We convey the raw materials, passing them through a shifter. In the past, they cannot do that because it's manual handled. So we have raw materials big bag discharger, convey into an inline shifter, convey into a receiver. The receiver will prepare the right recipe of the right amount, and we convey direct into the tank with no receiver needed on top. So we can go this direct into the tank. How do we use this? We use the dense phase technology because the air is very little and we push the powder. So by doing that, we are able to convey minimum air into the tank, and by doing that, we introduce the powder into the tank. Okay, and this is used for salt because they handle salt a lot. Okay, we will finish the slide with testing facility. We have a test facility in our Singapore test lab. So at any point of time to the technology that we have mentioned earlier on, you have some doubts or you need to do testing to make sure that our technology suits to your machine, let me know. We are more than happy to do testing. And feel free to contact us. Myself and Tom, we are in Singapore. Your closest contact will be Seema and Davao. They are located in India, in Hyderabad. Okay.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, William, for such an informative and interesting presentation. So do we have any other questions from the participants? I don't think so. We have many questions. So you can feel free to contact us. William, can you please show the earlier slide?
Yes, I will.
So you can contact me, Dhaval, Tom, or William at the given email IDs or the phone number and contact details given here. So I would like to thank Tom and William again for such an interesting presentation and such an informative session. Hope all the participants have gained a lot more knowledge in powder handling solutions, and also would like to thank everyone who took out their valuable time and attended today's session. You can feel free to contact us anytime. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Tom,
day.
William.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
weekend as well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Seema. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.